Welcome to episode 3 of Insights as a Service. We're going to change up for you today. This whole episode is an interview, and we're going to give that format a crack. Each week we'll have an interview. Every second week we are going to have news and opinion, and for those episodes I'll be joined by Nick Phillips. But today, for the first episode that is a full interview, we're going to be joined by Zack Levy from Deloitte. Zack is a really interesting guy, and in this episode, we go through some really interesting topics. For example, how to buy into an entity, in this case, Strut, the MSP that he bought into when perhaps you're not absolutely loaded with cash. Also, how he leveraged his relationship with AWS to really get ahead, and how he landed some pretty high-profile accounts like Qantas, Bauer Media Group, and others. And lastly, we talked through how Deloitte got involved, how Deloitte both identified Strut as an acquisition option, and ultimately how that deal took shape. So without any further ado, let's kick off with Zack. Okay, so Zack, you've been at Deloitte for 4.5 years now, and before that, Strut, right? And
correct.
For me, one of the key reasons I want to talk to you is around that whole Strut acquisition, you getting involved with Strut, the really impressive list of clients Strut had. I think there's a hell of a lot, both from probably customer acquisition, M&A sort of strategy, implementation, cultural fit around Strut versus Deloitte, just that whole process. But before we jump into all of that, I kind of want to give you a chance to give us a feel as to, how you got to this point. So I did the whole LinkedIn deep dive, and we're back away. And you're a lawyer turn IT guru guy, or vice versa.
It's probably the other way around. It's an IT guy who got a bit lost, turned a lawyer, and then figured out that IT. I always tell people, I didn't pick IT. IT picked me.
How so?
So, because ever since I was a young kid, I had an attraction to gadgets that weren't very sophisticated at the time, but I had toys. I used to take them apart and put them together again. And it was when I was 13 when I nagged my parents and used every excuse, and I got for my birthday an Apple IIc. If you remember, it had a fraction of the processing power that this watch got, and it was big and massive, laying on the table, and the screen was about that big, and it was green, and it was sitting on top. And we had
my
those
parents
big floppy disks.
My parents either didn't buy that kind of stuff for me, or I'm just not as old as you. But
you're
take your pick.
Probably not as old as me. But it means that I've taught myself how to code and play games and did all sorts of things, and I really had a passion for it. And then I'm originally from Israel, and when you're 18, you go to the army, and the army picked up that I've got a knack for it, so they've trained me further on taking to more like mainframe computer operations and cutting code in a more professional way, and I really got into it, and I did that for about 3 years, and I went to the private market, because when you're in the army, all you want to do is go to the private sector and make some real money. And then they buried me in the dungeon and made me cut code, and I'm more of a people person. So I said, oh, that's not really for me. I need a change of pace. And then I saw probably too many lawyers shows on TV. So I thought that would be an interesting profession to go and interact with people. So I went to study law, and I did that for a while, only to realize that my real passion is really with IT. So kind of took my legal skills, and I was an in-house legal back into IT, and I was an in-house legal counsel for technology companies for a while. And this is where I really realized that I really got a passion for everything that happens in technology and around technology, how technology can really enable people to have superpowers. And that's such for me, I find that so exciting. And especially the first big technology company that I worked for as an in-house legal counsel, their claim to fame was that they invented voice over IP. They called
that Vocaltech?
Vocaltech. So I was Vocaltech's in-house legal counsel from 1998 to 2000.
Right.
And it just opened my eyes into technology, what it can do, M&As, everything around that. And then I doubled down. I didn't want to be the lawyer going on, alongside and escorting people on a transaction. I want to be in it. I wanted to get my hands dirty in the tech. So I left Vocaltech and I moved to an incubator. And that was heavy luck. I had a portfolio of companies, different level of maturities, raising money, helping them scale. And then I really wanted to take that further. And I thought it would be good if I'll do a business degree, and that's how I ended up in Australia. I came here to do a master's degree in Macquarie Uni.
Right.
And then I met a girl, which happens kind of often, and then I got married, so I didn't go anywhere. So I had to find a job, and that's when I joined Telstra on the Qantas account, and that's where I got into data center hosted services, and then I joined a small boutique hosting business that did desktop as a service and hosting as a service, managed services before it was popular, before there was multi-tenancy, before Exchange even was multi-tenanted, before Citrix was multi-tenanted. We did BlackBerry as a service for $25 a month.
Wow.
That was in 2006. And we did pretty well for a small business that had to do a lot of evangelizing, and we grew and we got acquired by Dimension Data. I'm really running.
So we're talking about Bluefire there, right? That's Bluefire,
yeah.
Right. So just one sec there. You mentioned in Telstra you were on the Qantas account, which is kind of interesting because if we fast forward, like, I don't know how many years, 20 years or something, 15 years maybe, you came back around to Qantas with Strut, right?
I did. Yeah. They were one of my key clients for a while. Yes.
Interesting.
So
any of the same faces there when you got back around that second time?
No, I didn't see any familiar faces, and even I went back to Mascot to their offices, and everything looked so different. It was there was other than a little bit of nostalgia, there was nothing really there to bring me back.
Okay. So sorry,
that looked familiar.
I sidetracked you there, but Bluefire is really interesting to me, and keen to kind of go into that a bit because, in the conversations you and I have had in the past, it feels like Bluefire was really sort of foundational for you. I feel like you took a lot from that role and kind of used that, maybe the connections, the learnings to kind of put into use in future years. Like what exactly were you doing at Bluefire? Because I feel like you had a couple of roles there, I think.
I did. So you're absolutely right. Bluefire was an absolute milestone for me, and probably one of the best periods in my career, and where I learned the most, because I met a whole bunch of really good people that got along. They're decent people, good businessmen, and they love doing what they're doing, and it was really about doing the right thing by customers, growing, doing good business, looking after each other, having a good culture. And we didn't advertise it, we didn't publish it. We just did it. We wanted a good culture, so we created a good culture. We wanted to have fun together, so we had fun together. We wanted to have good business, and I had some good people, and I've learned a lot from a lot of really good people. So Bluefire started in '97 and changed its business model several times. They actually started by putting PCs together and selling them as a wholesaler. But they changed a lot of time. And when I joined them, there were 19 people. I was employee number 20. And they just got into data center hosted services. You buy a server, you buy Citrix, you buy some other software, and you sell it over a private link for small and medium-sized businesses. I mean, that was really revolutionary at the time. We had to break Exchange so you can use multiple customers without seeing each other. But and we managed to make it work.
That would have been easy to get support on from Microsoft after that. We have some issues. Yeah, but what are you doing with it?
It actually got us to be, I think we were SPLA partner number 2 for Microsoft in Australia.
Wow.
And if not, it was one of the first 5. But we were one of the first to actually go on the SPLA arrangement. Adam, who was the CEO at the time, who's one of the people that I learned the most out of. He said, "You got a legal background, that's really useful." And we interacted before, so I helped him a bit with some of the contracts and stuff. So we made a deal. I wanted to deal with the tech and the deals. He wanted me for my commercial and legal experience, and we did a deal. I'll earn the right to deal with the tech and deal with productizing, service offering, and in return I'll do all the legal and commercial stuff. And that was it. And for about 7 years, that's what we did. We did really good deals together. I covered the legal side of the business, and he let me play with the tech and develop product and control panels. And it meant that I had to butt heads in a very friendly way with the CIO on many occasions. But we ended up working really, really well because the CIO had a vision, had a dream. He'd live in the clouds as a visionary, but really struggled to bring it to reality. And that's where I would come in. I'll turn a vision and a dream into something practical that can actually be delivered.
Yeah, that's important.
And we really, like Dimension Data, they were interested in us because we did stuff remote cloud. Today it's called cloud. But they didn't know what to do with us. So they invested but didn't acquire. They left us to do our own thing.
Okay.
And that's to have the cake and eat it, because now you're backed by a big brand, but you're a small, nimble brand when you want. You don't have to go to the bank anymore. You've got your parent that you can go and ask for pocket money whenever you want. And that just gives you a safety blanket. And when we've got a safety blanket, we go, we run. And that's what we did. We grew, we acquired, and we turned from 40 people when Dimension Data acquired us in 2009, or invested first, to about 100, 110 in 2011, only 2 years later. That was an amazing ride. We really did. We started growing up the scale, going from the small more to the medium size, doing more enterprise type of deals. And we even came up with that concept of a pod, where we sold the whole package with the hardware and the software and the orchestration to third parties so they can start becoming service providers. And the concept is used today, but we just didn't have the funding and the scale. But that's what got Dimension Data interested, and then turned it into the cloud business unit, which was running for a while. And then when it came to Dimension Data, I stuck around for a little bit longer, but it wasn't the same anymore, and they wanted me to focus on the legal stuff. Didn't give me any ability to deal with the tech, and I wasn't really interested in any legal stuff. So that's where I took the role at Reckon to help them with hosted services, and that's where you and I met.
It was, which seems like a lifetime ago now. We'll come back to that, but I just got a couple more questions about Bluefire. So one is, you mentioned it sort of went from 40 odd, well, you were number 20 in terms of staff. It went to 40 when Dimension Data got involved, and a couple of years later it was 100, which is amazing growth if we take that metric into account. Was the underlying profitability scaling at the same rate, or were you guys kind of really going with
yeah. So again, as Adam, who's the CEO, is one of the shrewdest businessmen I've ever met, and also one of the most personable businessmen, which is
he's a good guy.
Really great combination, because you can have really, really tough conversations with people without offending them in any way, which is a superpower when you do deals. So there were two things that super accelerated our growth, and at the same time, not only maintained our profit, but grew our profit. Because we moved from, we had, like, if I remember correctly, I don't know if this information is public, but from a...
It's now.
I need to be fair to the others, but I guess from we changed our EBITDA 8 times within those 2 years, grew by a multiple of 8.
Wow.
And there's two things that did it. A, we did an acquisition, but the acquisition was a smart one, and that's Adam. We went and found a business that had complementing capabilities to ours. So we were probably 80% hosted services, 20% network services. We found a business that was 80% network, 20% hosting. And the business was run by really capable technical people that really lacked a second or a third business partner that had the commercial acumen. So for 14 years, they ran a business doing everything right, but barely being profitable. There were months that they would bring their own family money and put in the business just to keep on going. They had a good culture, good people, but they really struggled with managing the business commercial. They just didn't know how to didn't have the experience, nor the ability to make good commercial decisions, not for the lack of trying. They just needed a person, and they never really brought that third partner into the business to do that. And when we acquired the business, it wasn't about to go bankrupt, but it wasn't doing very well. It took 6 months to turn it around and turn whatever they had into something really profitable, and then really realize the synergies. So there's a lot of focus to do the right thing by the people and realize the synergies. And really within the year, the business was really well integrated. The benefits were starting to really realize. And then we not only took those to the customers, we took it to the customer next level up. We didn't wait. We took it to the next level of customers, the next level of deals. So all of a sudden we've got bigger scale. We've got equal strength on the network side and on the hosting side. We brought in really capable people. So let's take it to customers who consume more and can use our scale. And we just started doing bigger deals. And that really propelled.
And was that part of a sort of a segmentation strategy? Like, did you guys kind of go, look, we shine where complexity exists, therefore, that's it? Or is there was just more money at that top end? Or was it a by chance byproduct of the acquisition that you just found yourself getting into these conversations because of what you now had to offer?
We were not that sophisticated. We were just hungry.
Yeah. And you obviously backed yourself too when you saw an opportunity, regardless of size. You went,
we did. So what we did is we actually looked at what's our core strength. So we found we're really good at delivering hosted services to small and medium-sized businesses. So we started playing a little bit more we started maturing on the sales side. So we'll go to the more medium, the topper end of the mid-market.
With Lightwire, every service is a managed service. 24/7 monitoring, alerting, and support come as standard. And our customer portal gives the kind of real-time, data-driven insights MSPs need in order to create great end-user experiences. In short, we're built to make you look good. So check us out at lightwirebusiness.com.
Which for us was big at the time. Like 1,000 users was huge for us. So we started targeting those more. Initially we were frustrated by the sales cycle, but as we matured, we said, you know what, we need the patience, we need to persevere. It will be worth it. So we started really persevering and bringing on board those bigger clients and persevering with the longer sales cycle. But then we said, if we're really good at delivering those services and we package together technology that can do it really well, why not offer that as a white label to those instead of having a journey like us that took us 8 years to get there? They can get there tomorrow, and we'll help them operate that. So they use their relationship, they'll use their client base, it will be something that will be an easy upsell from their existing services. And that's what we did. We went to tier 2 and tier 3 telcos that did internet and email hosting and got into the mid-market, and we offer them, take the market, take a desktop, take Exchange, take storage, take backup. We gave them those rudimentary basic capabilities. And by the way, remember, there was no AWS at the time, at least not in Australia. There was no Azure at the time. So when it comes to cloud backup and cloud storage, it was the hosting service providers that delivered that. So we implemented all those technologies that enabled what today we take for granted. But we did it as a business grade, integrated with your Active Directory and all that. It wasn't as taken for granted or a given as it is today.
So I guess my question is, Dimension Data had invested. It's going really well. You guys are growing. Your EBIT's grown by eightfold. Your staff count's going through. Your capabilities, your results are all just going through the roof. At what point and why was the decision made by someone within Dimension Data to take the lot and sort of go about it a different way?
It literally happened overnight. And it happened before the earnout of some of the people was done. So they did it abruptly, quickly. They also acquired a business out of the US that had some proprietary orchestration software. And the plan was, we'll take the orchestration business, we'll take the hosting business, we'll put it together, and there's this new up and coming AWS thing that does infrastructure as a service. We can do that too. So they literally, one day they stepped in, they took over, they brought the earn-out early, they exercised all the rights to buy all the shares. They paid it out, they took over, and overnight from Bluefire, we became Dimension Data, and the plan and the strategy changed. We now work for the cloud business unit. They rolled out, they educated us on what's about to happen really quickly. Here are your new roles. They did a bit of a divide and conquer. So we were a really tight group. We worked really well together. We had each other's back. So you go there, you go there, you go there. And here are your new jobs, go. A couple of us, a few stayed for a very long time. But I was the legal guy because I could speak English, I could speak technical, and I could speak legalese, and I can communicate to all those, and they loved it. So they asked me to help set up the legal contractual framework for the cloud business unit, where people can sign up for things online and enterprises can stand up standardized agreement, and it's all modular based. And I said, okay, well, I'll do that. But I did it for 6 months, and despite expecting to have a different role afterwards, they loved me being in the legal space, and I didn't. So I made the jump to Reckon, which was one of the best decisions I could ever make, because I was armed with all the knowledge, experience, and experiences that I had at Bluefire, which was really the best business technical school I could ever imagine. I brought it all to Reckon to do in-house. And one of the things that happened within the first month, when I joined Reckon, which was November 12, this is when AWS switched on their Sydney region.
Right.
Okay. I came into Reckon, and I'm looking at the software business that wants to do hosting, but they've got so much hardware, and they've got so many people that spend time in racking and stacking and dealing with stuff. And I go, that's not our core business. Our core business is to do really awesome accounting software, or software for accountants. We spend a lot of time to do that. We can find someone else who can do that better. Because I came from the, IT as a service type of. So I went to all the traditional providers, but and then I came across AWS, and the penny dropped. It's actually not an outsourcer. They actually take away all the pain of the stuff that you don't want to deal with, and they give you a lot more power and control for the stuff that you do want to deal with. So we can be in charge of our destiny and shape what the experience that we take to our clients without actually all the hassle that comes with it. And that's what we did. Reckon was one of the first companies in Australia to go all in on AWS, and that was the mission. And that's what we did at Reckon.
It's the start of a 10+ year love affair with AWS.
That's right. It was
pretty much. I mean, AWS. It's hard to say whether AWS or meeting me was the best thing to come out of your time at Reckon, but it's probably AWS. Certainly more profitable. It was AWS. Sorry, AWS. Was Reckon the first ASX listed company you'd worked for?
Yes. Well,
and
no, because the first ASX listed company, yes. But Vocaltech was listed on NASDAQ.
Right. Okay. And was actually thinking about, was Telstra listed at that point? I don't even know.
Telstra must have been listed. Because I think I had options while I was working for Telstra.
Okay.
But
having said that, okay, I guess I'll reframe. Your first C-level role inside an ASX listed company or a listed company, did that sort of present any new challenges or just sort of hurdles for you to work through as part of your day-to-day?
I did not see that at all. So,
okay.
No, not at all, because the whole legal compliance thing was very familiar, because when I worked for Vocaltech was publicly listed, and I was, as part of a legal counsel, I was company secretary as well. I wasn't the only legal counsel, but I took the secretarial responsibility. So I was very familiar with how a publicly listed company works and thinks and the whole compliance side. When you work as a lawyer, you get to think about risk. But when you work as a businessman and you want to do deals, you know that risk needs to be managed. The deals needs to get across the line. So it's a question of balance. And then I really knew the tech world. Reckon was the opposite. It was freedom. Like I was a kid in a candy store. There was so much to do, and all of a sudden I've got this AWS powerhouse with all those capabilities, and I'm looking around and no one's using it. And I go, and it's kind of why.
Were they full of incentives and promos to get you on board as an early adopter at that point?
Nowhere near what they do today. Right. Nowhere near. It was more, AWS was the most addictive thing, attractive thing at AWS at the time was the culture. They were genuinely, wholeheartedly customer first. They were still in that phase where they weren't counting the profits. They were then really interested in creating a completely new market. And that's all they cared about. They really put the customer in the center. And if it will pay off 3 customers from now off the back of what you did there, that was the most important. So it was really about enabling, about empowering, about giving you the best experience in the world and getting you to really understand the power of AWS infrastructure that you can subscribe to genuinely on demand, and it's all programmatically driven. Think about infrastructure as code, no dev separate to ops, throwing things around. DevOps teams that do infrastructure people code, and coders mobilize infrastructure. It's one role. There's no separation between the two teams. So, and coming from the Citrix hosted desktop world where you have a farm behind that powers those desktop, that anyone who worked in a hosted desktop environment is familiar with the storms. People come in the morning at 8:15. As they make the coffee, they log in. It's not a web environment. You can't get that to scale automatically on demand. So all of a sudden, user connection go like this, and they work, and then many of them take a bit of a break during lunchtime, and then they go back and they work, and at 5:15 he drops, and he goes to, and then you got about 3% of the users working through the night because you've got some people who need to catch up on things. And then he goes again 8:15, 5 days a week, and the weekend you kind of, and now when you can orchestrate and manage all that all through code, and get granular visibility into what's happening, who's using what, how your storage is being utilized, how your service is being utilized, the connection. And then you look at it, and then it teaches you and show you a lot more about how your customers using the solution, so you can manage your infrastructure better and give them a better experience. It's a win-win. So you throw that back into the solution, and but that requires a fundamental change in the organization. And that was the toughest thing for Reckon. The same way that I find it the toughest thing today for every single client that we engage with that goes on that cloud transformation. It's exactly the same story. The technology is predictable, proven, it will do what it needs to do. It's the people and the organization and the culture that will dictate the pace of the journey, the success of the journey, the lessons learned throughout the way. So I actually feel privileged because today I'm a consultant. I go and I try to advise people how to do things the right way. I actually had the privilege of experiencing it firsthand, both from the tech side and the human element side. I argued I was a CIO, I had a CTO. We used to butt heads because he did not believe that cloud was a thing. There's no way that AWS can deal with the scale that our company had, and that separation between software and that just doesn't make sense. We live and breathe this today, so for us it's a reality. There are still organizations that I think the latest stat is less than 10% of the world moved to the cloud. I think now it's accelerated, and there's still a lot more large enterprises that haven't adopted the cloud, not fully. But yeah, it's still happening today.
Okay. We've now got to the point where, we covered off on the journey to the point that you were at Reckon. You'd had this AWS sort of come to Jesus moment sort of thing. You'd seen the light. You understood what was now possible based on the Sydney region having been established. You were doing pretty sort of remarkable things, really, in terms of the transformation you were driving within Reckon. So then what happened? How did Strut come about? How did you get introduced to the opportunity, and what part did you form in that whole business?
So Reckon is an amazing company. They've got amazing culture. They've been around for so long. They're really passionate about what they do, and so we've embarked on a real transformation. And that was I think the CEO was fully aware of what they're signing up for. And like any 3-year program, the first year was really easy, low hanging fruit. Second year was a little bit more challenging because you've got to introduce things that weren't there before. You need to start making changes that are a lot more meaningful and change the way you work. And it was really the towards the third year that you really had to make hard decisions. Their culture and the way that they did things, they had a different pace. One of the things, and the whole value of the program, and again, this is something that you still see today. No one invests in a transformation, in a cloud transformation, for the purpose of having a migration project. It's disruptive, it's expensive, it's risky. You got to do this while you're servicing your clients. You do this because there are benefits at the end. And I've always, and I've adopted that view since I started working with Reckon, at Reckon. I look at it from a disruption lens. You're either an established player in a market and your space been disrupted. Other people came and they're going to eat your lunch. You have to respond. The second scenario, the second bucket that I think of is you're an established player in a market and you see how the market is changing. So you're getting geared, you're being proactive, you're getting geared to improve your capabilities before someone else will come and eat your lunch. The third bucket is you're the disruptor, you want to eat someone else's lunch.
Right.
So when I look and I talk to clients, I'm always trying to make them see which bucket will they fit on. And I know that there's a lot more scenarios, but if you look at the profile and shape the program, it normally fits into one of those 3 buckets. And then when you do the program, you think about the value and the capability that you want to get at the end of a first phase, at the end of a second phase, at the end of you do this to gain something back. You can't wait 3 years to start getting something back. No one would, your shareholders won't be that patient, your people won't be that patient, your bank manager won't be that patient, your competitors won't be that patient. And it's in the third year that I really struggled to agree with we can't change those things because that's not who we are. We need more time. So the journey turned in the third year from transforming the really big things to let's take it easy for a bit and maintain a BAU type. And so 2 things. It wasn't really the time, not for me, not for the organization, to keep the lights on. The work had to continue. And they made a decision, and that's absolutely their right, not to continue at that pace. And for me, I came across AWS and I got so godsmacked by how it changes the world of IT. And I'm looking around and no one's doing it. And so I said, if I'm not doing this, I want to do that full time. And so I remembered I didn't have enough cash to bankroll myself, and I wanted to go more into the higher end of town to bring that technology to bigger clients, to more established clients. And I couldn't bankroll myself until I gained the credibility. I had credibility with AWS already. because we were early adopters and we went on in. So I was at reInvent presenting and Sydney Summit, and I knew people at AWS, and I had a reputation, but that reputation means nothing if you go to a client, especially an enterprise client. So I needed credibility. So I remember the days at Bluefire where we bought a business that was really capable, had everything that they need, but it was run by technical people that didn't have that person with that commercial capabilities. And I said, there must be a business out there that does AWS that will benefit from a business partner that has those commercial capabilities in the tech space. So I went to the AWS website, went to the partner portal, sorted out from A to Z, and started researching one partner by the other. And I think I was at around F when a colleague from AWS goes, Mike, you should look at S. Those guys, they're doing kind of good work. And that's where I came across Strut. There weren't a pure AWS business. They were more of a digital agency. They did Adobe, they did front-end design, and they did some AWS stuff to mobilize their Adobe. And then I contacted them and started a conversation. You know, it started along the line, hi, I'm Zack, I'd like to buy into your business and run it. And initially they go, why? Like, we're doing so great. We're doing well. We don't need anyone. So, and again, good guys.
What was the ownership structure like at that point when you got in touch with them?
There were three business. So two main business partner and another small, someone who had like a more of a small equity stake. He was the lead tech. And he had a bit of equity as part of retention, and two main owners.
Okay.
And we started talking, and the conversation kind of continued, picked up a little bit, went down. I tried to give them a view of what it's like when you have someone who's got a commercial background, how it can give you access to type of engaging clients in a particular way that you may have not been able to do before. And again, there were days that I thought, yeah, there's a good chance of this happening. There was that I thought it's never going to happen, so I kept on looking at others. And then, let's put it this way, Strut got to a point and said, you know what, we think that we could use your help with something. To cut a story short, we went through a very short period where we agreed that that the business kind of needs to kind of reestablish itself to be successful and gain some focus and some discipline that will give the business the stability that it needs, the profitability that it needs. As a result of that change, one of the original business partners decided to exit, and it was and then we pretty much established a new business where it was me and another owner and our tech lead as a greater equity stake, but we pretty much were equal in terms of the three of us. And we repositioned the business as a pure AWS business. So we turned to 100% AWS, pure DevOps business, and we introduced the managed services practice. And the whole idea of the managed services practice is we're not doing managed services the old way. The old way was you bundle hardware, you bundle software, you can buy it in whatever color you want as long as it's black, but you can have it small, medium, or large. People don't want that today, and I had that experience with Reckon. Like, AWS took away the kind of racking and stacking and software subscription. No longer, so a lot more power moved back in-house.
Right.
Doesn't mean that you want to do things that are not core business, and doesn't mean that you've got the skills to do everything really well. So the new managed services had to be about access to expertise that you don't have. It had to be about still doing the infrastructure bit, but in a way that I'll use you as a partner to do it because you can do it better, cheaper, with a lot more expertise. You've got a team, so No one is on leave. Even when someone's on leave, I've got the same capacity. But you've got to work in a more DevOpsy style with my developers. There's no more I throw over the fence. So adopting some of the AWS principles and even terminologies, managed services in the public cloud space is more about a shared responsibility. We're a DevOps team that will work together with you. So we'll bring the expertise, we'll bring the scale, we'll bring a methodology. So we'll be really good at, we always hit the ground running, we always have enough experts. We've got all the tools of the trade that we need to run AWS environments really well, cost effective. But we'll get to know you, we'll get to know your developers, we'll get to know how you release, and we'll work with you to do it. So in every engagement, there's X% that is standardized, and there is Y% that is not. It's about working with you.
Yeah, if I was talking to another one of our guests a few weeks back, Mike Jenkins, and the Ancillary that he founded, a very similar principle as far as I can tell, that kind of co-pilot approach, very much about cloud adoption and becoming part of the business and really getting really your hands in. And the technology is the technology. It's how you use it, how you adopt it, getting people on board, sort of, getting people to buy in as well. Big part of it, which you touched on before. But I know you love talking AWS. I know you love the product. I feel like there's some key takeaway there in how you structured that deal. And tell me to bugger off if you're not keen to go into too much detail, but I feel like there's some wizardry there. And for people who might not be, loaded with cash, but have a vision, have a target, is there any advice you would give on more sort of, imaginative ways to structure these kind of deals or approaches? Obviously you were very proactive, but what could you tell someone else now looking back in a similar situation?
To do what? To buy into a business?
Yeah.
Or to start? So one of the things that was at the back of my mind is, I didn't have the funds to start from scratch. To be honest, I didn't have the patience either. So one thing that I made peace with is, if you own 100% of nothing, it's nothing. But if you own 40% of something. So a lot of people, and it's perfectly understandable, because you go into business when you own something and you invest in it, there's a lot of emotion attached to it. But be able, on one hand, don't be too greedy and don't be too emotional. Try to look at the nature of the deal on paper and see that it's a good deal and it's worth your while and it's something that you're happy with. Try to take the emotion out of it. So to go and buy into a business that already had 2 or 3 business partners meant that my share would be smaller and I won't be 100% owner. And which means, from a personal perspective, whether you're, and again, I must be honest, when I bought into Strut and ran the company and we did what we did, I called it my legacy play. That was supposed to be me doing this for 10 years and then maintaining my ownership, taking a backseat, having young people run it for me, and I'll be able to retire in the Bahamas or something silly like that. Never happened. I didn't intend to sell, really didn't. So whether you're going to own the business for a long time, then you're going to get dividend or an income, and whether you're going to sell, you're going to get the cash or the proceeds. You're going to be comfortable and happy with a portion. And if you're only comfortable and happy with 100%, that's okay, but that's one type of a journey. I personally believe in the power of a team, and I've learned that at Bluefire. I went through a process at Deloitte called the Transition Lab, where it's a process when they help you as a leader understand who you are and what you've got around you and how you use your personalities, your capabilities, and the thing around you to succeed. So this is what you've got. This is what you need. And one of the things that came out as part of that process, I really learned a lot personally, emotionally, from the team that I worked at Bluefire, and I call them the gladiators. You know how gladiators are in the ring. They all back to back, because all they need to do is they need to look forward. They don't need to worry about the back, and they don't have to worry too much about the left or the right, because someone will take from you and cover it. Mm-hmm. It gives you that sense of confidence. It gives you that focus. So I had that team of gladiators at Bluefire, and ever since I've always wanted to build that concept of gladiators around me. So for me, that's more important than being a majority stakeholder. I need to have enough.
I like it. So, but But what's really interesting to me in the space is you came in as a significant shareholder, albeit not majority, but you're also CEO. So what was it like managing the egos in that space? You know, there's people who had started it, and then you come in.
That's the other probably most important thing. Treat people with dignity and respect any point in time. It doesn't matter if they're, the student that does, internship, or the CEO of Qantas, or anyone in the middle. Treat everyone with the same dignity. And that I learned from Adam and Bluefire. When you talk to someone with dignity and respect, you're honest and transparent, and you're not looking to take advantage or hurt or take advantage of people. You can really have difficult conversations in challenging circumstances, honestly and truthfully. Just be honest and truthful without malice. Explain, be honest, and it works 100% of the time. Even if people have an initial reaction which is emotional, ego-driven, kind of a spontaneous reflux, and it's not positive, as soon as things come down, it comes back with, you know what, actually, you may be right. Because if you come with dignity and respect and no malice, it actually works. And I had those, I cannot tell you how many tough conversations I had during the Strut period, because we had one shareholder that exited because he didn't like it, and we had another shareholder that exited after we did the Deloitte transaction, and that was tough. And the tech lead, who was the minority shareholder, is still my business partner today, and is the best business partner I've ever had. And that's what happened. When you treat everyone with the same dignity and respect, you'll be amazed how sometimes people step up and realize their potential because they were given the opportunity. And others just, okay, yeah, I'll move on. I'll do my stuff. This does not suit me.
Yeah, that's a good lesson. So I guess I want to dive into the Deloitte acquisition, how that came about. But I did a little bit of research, as I sometimes do, and I'll just read this out. So at the time of Strut's purchase, these companies were listed by Deloitte as clients. We've got Westpac, Qantas, Red Balloon, Amway, Bauer Media Group. What made Strut a team of 25 odd people? I don't know if that was the final head count at the time of the purchase, but I think roughly, right?
27, yeah.
27, there you go, pretty close. Don't know why I need to say pretty close. Anyway, but how? What was the go-to-market strategy? How did Strut, you and your team, get those brands? What can people learn from you in terms of, a sales strategy?
So when I officially joined Strut, I took David Chill, was my business partner at the time, and I said, I want to meet every single customer that we have or had, every single one. And we went for coffee with each and every one of them. And I was gobsmacked, like how many businesses that had a good brand or were good businesses and no one knew that brand, kind of either from the Adobe side, the digital side, they kind of touched AWS at any point. And I was, I really was amazed on how positively they spoke about Strut and the quality of the technical delivery. They did an awesome job. And Strut, like Tim and David, they were always very proud of their technical capabilities, and they always delivered to the best possible standard, even to their own detriment. So it wasn't uncommon for them to quantify the effort at X and spend 3X on an engagement just to make sure it's being delivered to a gold-plated standard with a bow on top. So we really had good, competent technical delivery. We haven't really, and then I realized that no one was actually there looking after the relationship, or they've built relationship, built trust, and then moved on. So we're not looking for a follow-up. We're not looking to continue looking after environment, although some customers say that they're not really interested in doing it. We're not looking to see if we can do other stuff in other areas, and we're not leveraging the good word that they tell of us in other places. So we've got this asset, which is credibility and reputation, and it's not being used anywhere. And B, although they were so competent on AWS, like some of the expertise in AWS they went to before the Sydney region was switched on, no one really had a relationship with AWS, which is I had. So, so it was pretty much around, let me get close to AWS, and I just parked myself at AWS offices at least 2-3 days a week. I was just there. I was setting up meetings with people that I knew there, and I made sure that there's at least an hour, 2-hour gap. So I was loitering at the kitchen with my laptop and doing work. And I cannot tell you how many leads or deals we had from, Zack, you're here. Awesome. I was just thinking about you. Can you do A, B, and C? Absolutely, we can. So they already had relationship with Bauer Media, but they haven't really, it was just running on its momentum. They really started thinking about managed services and taking it to the next scale. This is where my commercial background really helped, and my legal background. We took that and we structured a really good managed services deal that became a recurring revenue, giving us one layer of that guaranteed income. Westpac, Tim built amazing relationship in there. They were, and all the credit goes to him to get the deal across the line. But again, working with them to manage the commercials in a way that we do it in a profitable way. We did it through relationship with Capgemini. So again, it's about leveraging that relationship to enter into those enterprise clients and do more. And then again, we did something amazing in Westpac around automating the deployment of Adobe Experience Manager on AWS, which someone never done at that scale. So it's about using the AWS PR machine and making sure that everyone in the industry know how well we did, which got us at Qantas, because Qantas use AEM, and we've got that team that did this amazing work at Westpac. So I was there knocking on Qantas' door, bragging about how good we are at mobilizing AEM on AWS. And guess what? It got us a team to look after Qantas.com that at the time generated $3 billion a year. And we got a gig to make sure that the underlying infrastructure runs and hums, and we build a team to do that.
So at that point, right, let's say roughly that point, you're 1.5 years into your 10-year plan to build your legacy, take a back seat, have this thing run for you while you sit in the Bahamas somewhere, or maybe the Gold Coast, a bit closer. But you get a knock on the door. Like, how did the Deloitte thing happen?
It was more. So I went to a conference in Hamilton Island.
Terrible.
Because I don't even remember why. It was all hardware.
Because before COVID, people could do that?
Sorry?
Just because you could, it wasn't COVID and it was a thing?
No, I remember I really struggled with being out of the business for 3-4 days because of that conference. I really believed in networking. I really thought that will help us generate more business. But when I got there, I really struggled because it was all about reselling hardware, infrastructure. It was everything that was the opposite. But I met there a gentleman who had a more traditional, like a Blue Fire type business that was acquired by Deloitte 6 to 10, 12 months earlier as part of Deloitte's ambition to go into the cloud. And I got to know the guy at the conference over dinner. I also got to know another AWS practice out of New Zealand called API Talent. They were very similar to Strut. I spoke to that gentleman and he goes, actually, you guys do that DevOps cloud thing that we're supposed to do. So would you consider coming across to Deloitte and doing it there? And my initial response was, why would Deloitte be interested in someone like us? Like accountants and auditors that don't think they really be interested. But I was, again, at the time, I was trying to borrow a page from the Blue Fire book and try and find scale. And I didn't have time to, I didn't have the funds to acquire. But we were able to build a little kitty off the back of the profitable work that we've done at Qantas and Westpac and Bauer. So I was looking to do some sort of a merger, share swap type of thing. So I was in the market trying to find a business to scale because, again, doing work at Qantas, doing work at Westpac, you could see that it's just a question of time until the large enterprises will adopt AWS. They will. It's not if, it's a when, which means that the big players are going to get into that space, which means no one's going to use a Strut. A bank won't use a Strut to move its core banking systems into AWS. They're going to use a dimension data of a sort at the time. That's what I would thought. So if I'm not going to be proactive about this, someone's going to come and eat my lunch. So I need to think about my scale. I need to think about my future. And we were talking to another business about kind of merging into a portfolio type business. And that didn't work out. And then, look, it's Deloitte, so someone from Deloitte, the senior partner from Deloitte, called me and asked if I'm willing to chat for a coffee. Of course I did. And the first couple of meetings, again, I couldn't see the fit. But then I've had a follow-up meeting with another senior partner who was responsible for the overall strategy and why the acquisition. And then the penny dropped for me, how Deloitte is really going to become a modern technology system integrator, and how they're acquiring layer by layer. And it's just a question of time until they're going to do end to end. And I was thinking, so if someone's, AWS used to come to me and say, do you do data and analytics? And my answer was, of course we do the infrastructure supporting data and analytics. Because I don't do data and analytics, but I'll mobilize it. If I move to a Deloitte, I'll be able to say, of course I do data and analytics. I do the infrastructure supporting it and the security around it. So I go, okay, that could be interesting. And before you know it, we did a deal.
And what was that like trying to sell that deal to the rest of the business?
So it was with the other owners. It wasn't easy at all. And we had two happening at the same time, and both with pros and cons. And then the other one didn't go ahead purely on a cultural thing. Like, I've looked at the other people, the person who will lead the business, and we wouldn't have got along on a day-to-day basis for the next 2 years. So it was the Deloitte deal and then look at after. And then, there was pros and cons, and I was a bit, I love the idea of scale and the ability to tap into other capabilities. I was dreading the corporate. I really was worried about that. But I was willing to accept the challenge to bring the nimble, agile, rapid, cultural characteristic of a boutique into a Deloitte. That was the challenge that I was willing to take on. And if it doesn't work, we'll move on, we'll do it again. And my other business partners were a bit more skeptical. So we did a list of requirements, and there are non-negotiable on the list, and some that are negotiable. And if Deloitte agrees to all the non-negotiable and they are reasonable on the some negotiable, then we go ahead. And if there's one non-negotiable that they don't agree on, we don't do it. And Deloitte agreed. It wasn't easy, and we did a deal. But my business partner at the time, he really found going across to Deloitte hard. So it was only, I think, 5, 6, 7 weeks after we moved in, he said, "This is not for me.
Okay, pretty
Yeah,
quickly
and
the penny dropped. I'm keen to talk about that cultural fit. Just to finish up, but just before I do, the valuation methodology. You don't have to go into price or anything, but I'm interested just to know how a price was determined. Was it based on EBIT or revenue, or how did it work out?
I can't go into much detail, but I'll tell you that because Deloitte's got a really unique model, and we still do that today. So I can't go into much detail,
Okay.
but it all about if we value the business based on its potential, and everyone does that today. I've got a pipeline and I've got those deals, and this is growing, and this is so. If you believe this is your potential, right? Let's set up this valuation. And if in 2-year period you show me that value, you show me that you can deliver that revenue and that profit, you're going to get that value.
Right.
You're going to do less, you're going to get less. You're going to do more, you're going to get more.
Okay. Sounds very much just like an earn-out model, right?
It's an earn-out model. It's a risk-reward. It's quite clever and it's quite fair. And it's really about if you're embracing the change, like we preach to our client, you'll be successful. If you're genuine in your reason, because Deloitte won't lie about what it's like to come across. So if you're genuine with your intention and you're committed, you'll do extremely well.
It strikes me that sorry to jump in, but it strikes me that really you already believed in what you were doing. What you were being told is that you've got the same chance. No, you've got a greater chance to hit that based on the scale you're jumping into and the backing you're going to have. So if ever you were going to be able to hit those targets, that vision, this gives you the best chance of hitting that, and the money will be there at the end of it.
Yes, but it's not always risk-free. It's not easy, and it's always easier said than done because you are going into an organization that's got 10,000 people, and the system are built to the lowest common denominator. So while I had 5 apps on my phone and I could run my business from it, now I need to deal with paperwork and politics and different teams and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah.
I spent the first year thinking, oh, I did everything so much better at Strut. It was so much easier on it was easier to get frustrated than to have that leap of faith to say, well, Deloitte's successful. They've done it for so long. I should really do what I said I'll do and embrace it. It was easy to criticize and try to do it differently. And my first year was terrible.
Right.
And then I realized that doesn't work. So let me try it the other way around. And my second year was amazing to a degree that I made up for year 2 and then some.
Well done.
It was counterintuitive, but I followed the formula and it worked.
Nice. So that kind of touches on something for me though. And probably what we'll end with today is in your career today, you've bounced between large American firms, Telstra, then Bluefire, a much smaller entity that you helped grow to a medium-sized entity, I guess I'd call it. Dimension Data, big beast. Reckon, pretty big beast. Strut, tiny. Back up to Deloitte. Culturally, there's huge differences between each one of those. What have you learned through that journey? And I guess, do you have a preference looking back for what sort of entity you like to operate within? Do you have a comfort zone?
It's one of my favorite topics and I've got a lot to say, but we're also 5 minutes out of time. And there's someone on the other side of Teams that's waiting for me to dial in. So you'll give me the opportunity.
So your too long didn't read version.
If you'll give me the opportunity, we'll jump on this again and I'll be more than happy to continue talking. To. I'm really enjoying this.
But, okay, so we need to wrap that up. That sucks because that was the best, the one I was really interested on. Can you give me a too long, didn't read version of it, a bullet point? Give me three quick bullet points.
Culture is up to you. If you're a leader and you lead people, it's really, a lot of it is up to you. So Bluefire, it was really easy for us not easy, but it was easier for us to build a culture of a family. We looked after the people. Strut, the same. We had this. At Deloitte, it's more difficult because different teams, different. I'll say that in a lot of the instances, culture is what you make of it, and B, not every place is for everyone. So you can put all the effort in the world to build particular culture and do particular things. There will always be people that say, "Oh, I prefer things," but there are always people that will be different. I've worked for small businesses that I love the culture, and big businesses that I love the culture, and small businesses that I didn't like the culture, and big businesses that I didn't like the culture. It is extremely individual. And as a leader, you absolutely have the responsibility to shape the culture. Ultimately, it just comes down to, in my humble view, to very basic principles. Again, treat people with dignity and respect. They're all people, they're all the same. We're all absolutely the same, irrespective of color, religion, denomination. And we're just people we're all looking for the same thing. And if you do the right thing by your customers and you do right the thing by your people, everything else just falls in place. I'm not saying as a leader, as a business leader, you shouldn't have discipline around financial. You absolutely should. It's your job. But I don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to make another $100,000 or another $1 million today. You wake up in the morning, you want to do the right thing by your clients and you want to do the right thing by your people. Have the discipline to run the business the same way you do. But if you do that, everything else falls in.
100%. I think it's a really good place to leave it. You look after your clients, you look after your people, the financial results happen. It's a byproduct.
Good.
Mate, I love catching up with you. I can't wait for the borders to open so we can actually catch up for the first time in like 2 years in person.
Me too.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk. And I'm sorry to the person waiting on the Teams call there to get your time.
Thank you.
We'll leave it there. And that'll do us for this episode. Big thanks again to Zack for joining me. You can find him on LinkedIn and you can find me on LinkedIn as well, or you can send me an email if you've got any feedback or want to know more about something we've discussed. It's brendan@insightsasaservice.fm. If you or your business have a project you think Lightwire may be able to help with, please also let us know. You can reach me through those same channels. And that's it for today. Next week, we have News and Opinion. Nick Phillips will be joining me. Should be a great episode because there is a hell of a lot going on in the industry. All right, we'll see you soon.